So in our next game here, we have the Exalted Bloodthirster. We have Via Animae on Walk, and we have Peon on Khorne. Sorry, Walk, Khorne. And yeah, these are really interesting armies. So we actually have pretty small armies on both sides with the super elite. We got the Sorcerer of Nurgle, Kolek, Summoners of Rage, Chaos Knights, and 3 Horsemen. Horse Masters, actually. And then from Walk, we have 2 Marauder Horsemen of Khorne. Interesting. A Fleshhound, some Marauders, and Bloodletters with an Exalted Bloodthirster, and a Mino of Khorne with dual weapons. So these are really interesting takes. Neither army is what I think of when I think of how this matchup would play out. So let's think about how what's kind of like the game plan for both sides. First of all, we have a lot of Marauders on the Khorne side with the dual waxes without the shields. And we have 2 horsemen of Khorne. So these things again have the throwing axes we talked about just earlier. So what I'm actually seeing is a lot of vulnerable infantry and 3 very strong skirm cav. I would suspect that the game plan from Via is to, probably first capture some of these objectives, but really put the pressure on the horsemen, because again, it's like once you kill these horsemen, and your horse masters do a lot more damage than these horsemen, then you're just kind of free reign to poke at all this unshielded infantry. So again, Bloodletters is the highest priority target, but then all of these are pretty squishy as well. And even the Exalted Bloodthirster. So I'm thinking you load into this game as Khorne, you're instantly thinking, holy shit, I need to be summoning shields. So I'd be thinking of like getting a couple Chaos Warriors, maybe a couple of shielded Marauders, and literally their only goal is to keep these guys honest. You might even want to consider summoning the Hounds. And then from Walk side, what am I thinking? I'm thinking I'm moving this blob to one of the points, maybe even the center, and then trying to control the fight using the horse masters. So thinking following up summons, maybe tipping even more into mobility. Keep your mobility advantage. If you have any more Skirm Cav, this is like the ideal opening for you. So you probably want to summon another Skirm Cav. And then just capturing 1 point and using your mobility to just value trade as long as possible until like basically you can force the points situations. And maybe Khorne, you just want to get on points. That's like one very valid strategy of having this disadvantage. So summoning shields is one strategy, waiting till you have shields, or summoning, or just pushing onto the points and saying like, yeah, you can value trade, but it's going to take you long enough to value trade. So let's see if either player does something like that. I would probably say for Via, I think just capture point 2. I don't think you're in that much of a rush to get on, and I think these points will matter a lot. And so Via properly identifies as win condition. We have a lot of squishy targets. Let's summon more things to shoot squishy targets. And it's actually really hard for Khorne to match this. Because these are a lot worse. This is actually a pretty good advantage. You definitely want to push that. But just summoning more of these isn't a terrible idea, because you could like kind of decrease the overall disadvantage. But because they're generally a lot worse than the horse masters, Um, 4 horse masters is a pretty Chad move, but it's probably not the best idea to. You probably want to at this point switch to a different strategy um, of getting onto the points or getting just cheap stuff to cheap stuff. Maybe this is a little too not the right move because I think the horse masters will kind of want to just be running away from flesh hounds, and even if you're attacking them in the rear, like if you kind of look at how this plays out, if they kept charging, the horse masters are basically getting no damage and they're just getting very up close shots. And this is nice to screen with the Chaos Knights. So yeah, so as I was saying, greedily take the points as Khorne and say, I probably am losing a lot of this. Definitely not a trade you want to take there. They don't have any AP, but grab the points. Say your blob is not good enough to clear off my kind of strong units, and say like you can prove this eventually, but it's going to take you a while because I have so much cap weight. And honestly, because you can just start moving these into the trees as soon as you get the points. Try to like stem the bleeding a little bit. Fury is a very good idea too. These kind of missiles have a hard time hitting Furies. So if you can use them a little bit to screen, maybe still not quite as good as having just some shielded infantry, but without having a better alternative, that might be a good strategy. And yeah, I'm probably just moving all of these infantry. If I'm Khorne, I'm probably just moving all these infantry to 0.1. Just keep the line that's wide like this. I think that's good for denying too many inroads, because these things want to like kind of go around and find good shots. But I think if you're Khorne, you just move down. Good charging and countercharging on both parts with these guys. And yeah, I think at this point, if you're Via, you need infantry now. You need to be switching into more infantry because you want something to contest the points. You might be better. The best idea is to just summon to 0.1 and then prepare to move into 0.2. The second Dragon Ogres, I think, is definitely too much because they're going to be slow killing the infantry. And it might be cost effective with the Chaos Sorcerer, but I think it's a little too greedy to have both Summoners of Rage and another unit of Dragon Ogres.
One of your units has been destroyed.
Pretty cool to see the Kolek getting kind of slapped around by the Exalted Bloodthirster. That's good to know. Although with the healing, it does get a lot harder for Khorne to deal with this. These Bloodletters are doing damage into the Chaos Knights because they are AP. Yeah, so I think maybe this Mino, this Mino unit and the Furies, it's a little too much, I think, from... I'm not sure what Via is waiting for. But anyways, I think it's too much because, like I said, like your game plan is, I'm getting shot to pieces by these Marauder Horsemen. How can I deal with this situation? Well, I can deal with it by, even if I'm trading down in value, I can be trading up in points. But because we haven't captured 0.1, we want to be capturing that with more infantry. We want more cap weight. Alright, so Via summons Skull Crushers with anti-large. I'm seeing a lot of anti-large on this roster, which actually kind of makes some sense into the Minotaurs. I'm not certain that Skull Crushers are the right choice into Minos, though. I suspect that Minos would win that fight kind of handedly. Okay, now we have some infantry, and yeah, the infantry is definitely the right call now, and I like the halberds choice because we're like trying to deal with some of this stuff. But it does still feel like, and this is kind of goes to my point that like Via wants to be still value trading. He wants to unsummon these units and make the gold differential even higher when the unsummon goes through. And then pushing up, but he doesn't have a lot of time. And this is definitely the right call here. Khorne absolutely wants to be capturing this point ASAP. I like this rotation. We just see like an isolated unit over here. Let's go kill it with our giant blob. We see the nice charge of the Skull Crushers. Yeah, they do a satisfying amount of damage on the charge to this Marauder unit. So that this is like a nice pick. And then Khorne has kind of handshaked with the points. So I guess if you're Via, you want to punish either there, or we just punish here and we rotate this around for a little pincer. I am very curious now how Dragon Ogres do. I don't know how this unit does into Minos. I expect that Minos do better in general, but with the healing, that actually might be a pretty favorable trade. And yeah, and just this looks like maybe one of the last decisive engagements of the battle, where we have a larger walk army kind of converging on this army. Do we have the right tools here as Khorne to deal with what walk has? So let's just think for a second. I like that we have AP infantry supported by Minos, closely supported by Minos, and most of the tools. Another Skull Crusher. I like Via is definitely on brand with the double Skull Crushers, the double Summoners of Rage. Everything on the roster has anti-large armor piercing. But as I've said before, like sometimes the mixture of Bloodletters and Minos, and infantry and Minos, this is a good combination. And then we have these need to, I think, in my opinion, probably it could be unsummoned, or we could just get one really big surround. And I think what Via now wants to do, pin infantry in here, get a full surround, attack from all angles, and try to crush the Bloodletters leadership really quickly. And we have enough tools. I think the last thing that you want to do is just push everything in through the front, because this army of Khorne's looks like it just wants to grind, because it does still have some high valued units and some good AP units, and so they're fine and I guess the healing is still relevant, because like a big blob will help, we'll get a heal, but in general I think this is Khorne's like only hope in this situation, is that we don't get surrounded and have our leadership crushed. And with the worry of the surround, even probably the danger of the surround, you might want to be thinking about flesh hounds to come just plug up the back. Okay, so the heal goes here. That makes sense. These are all pretty high valued units. Unfortunately, Kolek was not in that. Was Kolek in the blob? No. That's a pretty good heal. That's a good dodge, actually. Okay, so we rotate this around. We bring these forward, probably bring these over, again, just to deny. Fleshhound is fine, but it's probably in the wrong spot. This Fleshhound totally can do some work against these if it gets the charge off. And yeah, so this fight is probably pretty favorable for Khorne. Because, like I said, we have these AP infantry actually will do a really good job kind of turning the tide. Even if they don't receive a lot of value, they're doing value to very high value targets, and they're absorbing damage for the thing. So like imagine if this is Marauder. That's a great snipe. That was really nicely done, moving up and getting the last little bit. So yeah, they're both absorbing damage for the Minos to do damage, and also doing damage to very, very high value targets. And so interestingly enough, instead of going for the surround, Via did kind of return to the center where we got sort of this big grind here. Funny enough, Khorne, kind of like I said, with the Fleshhounds coming in and stopping up and doing that work, Khorne has gotten that like exactly the fight that they wanted, which was like a grind atop of the AP infantry and the Minos. So that was really nicely played by Khorne. Khorne brought back a lot of value here. They're still probably down in value, but this pick, killing the Lord, isolating 2 very high value units, and then the Chaos Knights taking a lot of damage in the blob, that was a really, really good trade for Khorne. Horsemen, I'm guessing they're back out because we ran out of things to summon. And horsemen do fine here, like they can have a lot of mobility. But that was a really good trade for Khorne, and we've now, I think that really brought him in. And also, even without, I don't think the Fleshhounds got the charge, but even without the charge, they did a lot of damage. Okay, so we're Khorne, and we want to win this battle. How do we do it? We still have the double cap. This is just a single. We've got kind of a mass route from the enemy, and we're holding here. I think we're feeling relatively well as Khorne, because we're really doing up in points. The value differential is, the gap is closed a lot. Yeah, how do we win this as Khorne? Maybe we can talk about how we win this as Walk. Maybe we chase off this dog and we stay consolidated, but because we're doing well on this point, I think we want to continue making sure some of these units don't come back to haunt us. And we probably, importantly, want to keep killing these valuable units here. I like staying here for a little bit. So I think that the game plan as Khorne, you really want to just maybe even send one unit over, like one of these horsemen over. You are so close to the triple cap scenario, and this blob actually ended up seeming to work really well for you. You have to be really careful with your Exalted Bloodthirster, not to lose him. But I think now what we're looking to do is probably try to revitalize this kind of death blob that we got going on. So we're looking to summon more Bloodletters. I would summon them from this point to here, or this point to here. Basically put them between the 2 points so they can bounce between the 2 as needed. And just look to summon Capweight and Capweight probably is honestly what you're looking for, and maybe 1 Mino. So maybe actually you want to summon the Marauders, and then as Walk, you're trying to rally this, heal it, bounce, use your mobility advantage to punish anything that's sitting outside of this blob. Okay, so we've rallied this stuff. We're now moving over here to punish. This can't be held. We've lost the opportunity to attack over here. Although this Warhound probably can kill that. Attack away from the, fight away from these 2 units. Win on the Flesh Hounds. And so yeah, so what was really good for Khorne, which was, sitting in this blob and maybe protecting point 1, now we've deviated into these little micro fights where all of our anti-large can now really shine, fighting away from that kind of scary blob. Even still, I think Khorne is going to have a pretty hard time, Walk is going to have a pretty hard time dislodging this area, although the Horse Masters really help, and then getting to point 1 in time. And if you're Khorne, you really need to be looking to keep point 1 and not getting so tangled down in these little fights that we're mostly losing over here. Again, this is fine. Putting it to point 2 is fine too. And then this, I like this. This is all nice too. We basically did what I said. We've consolidated point 2 where we can keep our advantage. And we have mostly maintained point 1, but we need to rotate some of these over. Yeah, this is a really good game. Really interesting. And look at the value difference with Khorne now. Khorne is, by consolidating their forces, keeping to that blob, they've really managed to come back. This is really problematic and really nice by Walk to just do the quick cap weight, and it was so hard for Khorne had a very small window of time to address this. So this one move could have changed the outcome of the game.
Woeful tidings. The enemy has captured one of your victory points. Take it back.
We are in triple cap territory, so everything that Khorne has needs to be going to point 2 now. We just ignore everything and just keep your advantage here. And this is actually nice too. I will say this kind of like forces the question. But definitely, maybe this is too much.
One of your units has been destroyed.
We'd much rather capturing this point does you a lot less good than holding on to 1 point, because it takes a lot of time to capture a point. Oh, this is working out pretty nicely. And now we have kind of like this is too late. We don't really want Minos anymore because there's so little time. We just probably want to summon a Marauders and any other mobility we have. But yeah, and it looks like Khorne will win this. The turning of the tide was sort of taking this really bad fight, Walk taking this really bad fight here, after like a pretty strong opening, so the Horse Masters actually did pretty well, and then just sort of losing in this blob, and then that snipe with the Khorne's snipe of the enemy lord was really nice, like very clinical. This is cute, but again, it would get to this point in that amount of time, and it would provide enough cap weight to just ensure the win. I think it's not necessary here.
One of your units has been destroyed.
Yeah, so really nice game. A lot of like very back and forth and dynamic. It was good to see. Summoners of Rage did reasonably good. Chaos Knights of Nurgle did pretty well. Did really well, actually. Probably killing light infantry. Skull Crushers kind of struggled to find targets. The Dragon Ogres did pretty well. And then Marauders didn't really see summons. I probably would have wanted to see some of those come out. Horse Masters did very well. The Bloodthirster with 3,200. I've never seen a Bloodthirster do that well. That's awesome. $2,600 on the Exalted Bloodletter. 1,800 on the Mino. And then Furies did okay. Some of them did well, some of them not as much. Okay, so in this game, we have Rusto on the High Elves and Kek Lord on Tzeentch. Also both rocking some really interesting armies. So Tzeentch went very heavy in the cav, and a lot of armor. And Rusto went with a more archer and spearman core. So I think, let's see what's on Kairos. Damage resistance, blue fire, firestorm. Probably good against archers. Life leeching. Damage resistance. This great arcane conduit. And then we have a moon dragon. Tempest and Apotheosis. Tempest, I'm guessing, is for the Changebringers, maybe? Maybe also for Kairos. Apotheosis. I kind of like this kit on the High Mage. It makes sense in this matchup. Because you want to be locking down Screamers, you want to be locking down Kairos, you want to be locking down Changebringers. So yeah. So we're logging in. We've just loaded in. We see we're the High Elf player. We look at the enemy's army. What is the enemy's army got a lot of? Armor. What do I not have a lot of? Armor piercing. So minus the dragon, which actually is a reasonably good answer against this. I think it's fine to take points, but I think you want to stay really compact. You want to form like a very tight line if you're the High Elf player. I would go even more boxy than this, perhaps. But I guess the Tzeentch Firestorm makes it a little bit harder. But maybe even summoning in more backline or something. Depending, and you'd be a little worried about Furies coming in. You have to be really careful as the High Elf player. And then yeah, as the Tzeentch player, so basically, how are you going to win as a High Elf? Well, you could shoot for a very long time as archer with your archers. And then expect your dragon to do a lot of damage. Or maybe you're looking to summon White Lions if you have White Lions. White Lions would probably do pretty well into everything out here. Or you're summoning like Cav and you're doing cycle charges or something. Probably White Lions are the best call for High Elves. And then you just don't want to be greedy, I think, as High Elves. You want to just try to... I wouldn't even necessarily go all the way forward. I would maybe even wait like back here, especially with the expectation of potentially Furies coming from the other side. Tzeentch, I think Furies are fine. That's probably a good call. I think also summoning more Chaos Warriors if you have them is good too. Because like I said, like nothing here is really doing a great job against armor. You could be thinking about maybe a unit of Screamers just to sit on the the Archmage just to sort of tie her down if she's causing you a problem with like breath attacks or anything. But yeah, just preparing like a big strike on this formation, because it does seem a little bit weak. You might even want to get Marauders just to tie down the front line. You know, like do a couple Marauders here, and then you know, maybe mix in a couple Warriors, using the Chaos Knights to go around, using the Furies to go in. Marauders make sense here. The first summon being maybe a Screamers make sense here. Yeah. Furies, they do make sense too, but it might be a little premature because you don't have everything kind of in place yet. And so you kind of want to wait until you have like a full surround in place before the Furies come out, because they're so quick to get to the points, and to get to the enemy, and infantry is going to be there really quickly. Much slower, sorry. Similar idea, the Furies instead of Screamers, but in missile fire, and you know, the Screamers are probably a little better at this than the Furies. This feels wrong. This feels like a choice that will help you in the short term, but not in the long term, especially if Tzeentch starts summoning. Doom Knights are interesting here too. If the Furies were still here, I think the Doom Knights plus the Chaos Knights plus the 3 that we have here is probably enough to compromise this position. If you just do a quick... okay, so we did have White Lions. Just to compromise this position and kind of all at once. But you definitely don't want to be going in one at a time, because then we can kind of pick it off, and even Archer Fire will do a little bit of damage to those units if they have time to shoot. Yeah, I think the Doom Knight's choice is nice. Yeah, definitely Aecold. You can't quite eat him in yet. Yeah, I wonder if Aecold is the right pick here, because usually Aecold units like this do really well into like very high valued. So like, let's say the Pure Main Company comes out, you want Aecold just fighting the Pure Main Company the whole time, because they usually do pretty good damage to like really stat it out. So like Aecold and Sigvald, they just do well into like high value infantry, and they're yeah, that's kind of the target you want. Again, maybe one at a time. This looks good. We just need to kind of get everything into the fight at once. I mentioned about Furies being a good way to lose battles. What is? Oh, that was the Firestorm. Damn. Look at how much damage that did to the armored infantry. That spell has only 30%. Let's just double check. So it has a little bit more upgraded. That did a lot of damage. That was a good spell. I feel like these blue fires aren't even worth it when that spell is so good. You just keep saving up for that. War Lions are a good choice too. I kind of forgot about War Lions, but they make sense into the Chaos Knights and the Chaos Warriors. They might not win one-on-one versus Chaos Knights, but they, especially supported, they'd probably trade up. These archers are a little too far forward. You probably want to get them spread out. Dragon. We want the dragon to be killing infantry and Chaos Knights. It's going to have a hard time chasing Kairos without Tempest, but you do have Tempest, so that might be an idea too. Okay, there we go. Let's see if this, how quickly this does damage with the two entities and Tempest going on. But Kairos is like kind of janky. The hitboxes are a little difficult. So it's a little hard to hit him, and he's a lot of health, so a lot of times it's best to kind of ignore him if you can. Yeah, this is a really nice summon. Yeah, I like the high elf positioning. This makes sense to me. We didn't make it to the points, but we did manage to capture them early. Maybe that's a important thing for Tzeentch to do instead. Yeah, I think if you're Tzeentch, you probably want to pull back a little bit and maybe regroup. It might be a little tricky where you are specifically now, but like regather your forces and move into another big attack. Because we want, the name of the game here is Tzeentch versus High Elves, is Tzeentch wants to be striking everything at once to whatever degree possible. Centaurs make sense at this point of the battle too. We have a lot of like isolated things out and about. You have to be really careful that they don't get shot by archers, but they're going to trade really well into silver helms. They're going to trade well into white lions. They'll probably trade fine into the lions. So we've kind of reformed. High elves have sort of pushed to the point. I wouldn't say this is even necessary because of the point situation. You actually did have a lot of points in the end, but it's fine too. I think if you wanted to be like as clean as possible, or as like, you know, fight it out to the end as possible, you set up. Reform your archer line, reform some infantry in front of it, stick onto points 1 and 2, bring in stuff to cover your backfield, kind of reform like basically what the beginning of the battle was, but it's not necessary by any stretch of the imagination.
I knew it. Unending glory is yours.
The dragon actually did really well. Spearmen did fine, the Silvern Guard. And archers actually did manage to pay for themselves in the end. So I bet a lot of that was shooting Furies. Frostheart Phoenix actually did pretty well fighting Kairos and other things. White Lions did reasonably well. And then Cav did fine. Kairos did really well. I'm guessing that's because it actually did a pretty good job battling the two single entities, and the storms did well. Cold actually paid for himself in the end. Doom Knights did pretty well. Centaur okay, and then some of the infantry. So I think the Tzeentch just had kind of a problem timing their attack to kind of overwhelm. So yeah, just this is the first set of games that I reviewed for the tournament. I think future weeks I won't do as many, but I just wanted to kind of cover everybody in this first week, or almost everybody if I've forgotten somebody. in the future week, I'll probably just look at 2 or 3 of the games. But yeah, everyone did great, and I hope you learned something. Definitely let me know if you want to learn about specific things. Again, I didn't focus on micro. I was just focusing on like larger scale decisions and what kind of game plans are given the armies, given the maps, that kind of thing. But yeah, but definitely let me know how it went and if you wanted anything different. And okay, see you next time.